Hey, I'm George Ruggiero.
And I'm John Finnegan.
And this is the G and Finn Show, giving you up-to-date info on Ole Miss sports and more from around the country.
Catch us Mondays at noon and Fridays at 6 on 92.1 FM, Rebel Radio.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the G and Finn Show here on 92.1 FM, Rebel Radio. My name's George Ruggiero.
And I'm John Finnegan.
And if you hear some rustling in the background this show, the university has decided to do something very interesting with the beginning of our Thanksgiving break. There's no Wi-Fi in here. I know this is going to sound like the most Gen Z or millennial thing ever, but why? Like, why do you have to do this to us? We can't even have our laptops in here for notes.
We nearly got locked out of the studio on our way in here.
Yeah, so we're walking in today, and, you know, everybody's going home. We get it.
Everybody is home.
Yeah, most people who live, like, anywhere within, what is it, probably 3 hours, do you think?
Easily.
Like, they're already home for Thanksgiving.
Including the person who typically lets us into the studio after hours before our show.
Yeah.
That being said, we got a great show for you all today coming up on Thanksgiving week when, as you all know, Ole Miss will face off with Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. You want to get right into it with some Egg Bowl action?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready. Not everyone else is, though. Mississippi State has one more game before the Egg Bowl. They play ACU, which
that's like Abilene Christian?
Yes, Abilene Christian, who,
not good.
No, they're not good. So just based on that, there's no betting spread yet, and the stats that are, up to date for the actual Egg Bowl are going to be a little bit different from what we have. But we're just rolling with what we've got.
And keep in mind, the game's not tomorrow. Normally there's a spread because we're talking about the game the day of or the day before. We've still got a few days coming up. And for me, George, at least the years we've been in school, the Egg Bowl has always been, of course it's gone to the away team the past 3 years we've been in school. But for me, it's always been a tale of whichever team has more to lose by losing that game does.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty spot on, really. I mean, last year... we did. Well, actually, I don't think either team really had much to lose.
It would have been a bowl game, though.
No, we wouldn't have. Not last year.
Oh, yeah, last year we were still
banned.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, my thinking was, I figured if we had 5 wins going into this game, we'd lose it. Now that State has 5 wins, looking at a bowl game.
Should have 5.
I hope I jinxed it.
I really hope you did.
That would be absolutely beautiful.
If they lost at home to ACU.
Poetic.
That would be... incredible,
but
would love to see it.
It's always been whichever team has more to lose. It's been the away team for the past few years. ESPN FPI gives Ole Miss a 35% chance. I think that's reasonable. I think it's in the right ballpark, but I think it kind of, I don't know, and you were mentioning this to me before the show, it kind of underrates how well we've been playing lately.
Yeah, I looked at that, and sure, it's 35-65, yeah, we get it, and State does have a better record than us, but... just as of late, I don't see how they can rate State so highly. I mean, they just got blown out by Bama. I mean, not as much as we did, but we put up a lot better of a fight against LSU than State did. And just looking at the numbers, Ole Miss has been putting up huge numbers on the ground against we agreed on this. LSU's run defense is pretty solid. They were only giving up about 100 yards a game.
It's top 5 in the country.
Yes, it's top 5 in the country, and we put up hundreds upon hundreds of rushing yards.
And we spread it around, too.
It wasn't just one player.
We have 4 500-yard rushers on the season.
Like, that's ridiculous. Keep in mind, one of them is a quarter. Actually, our leading rusher right now, John Rice.
Yeah, he's got 1,000, doesn't he?
Just about. I think
he needs
980
yeah, he needs
or something.
11 more or something.
It's something stupid like that.
I'm assuming he'll get that on the first play of the game.
No doubt. I mean, apart from the kickoff, which if they put him at kickoff return,
that would be almost as stupid as putting Tua back in.
Whoa! We've already covered that, but whew.
That being said,
he can't do much right now, can he?
No, I don't think so. He can play the ukulele.
Oh yeah, that was a great video.
It really was. It's hard not to root for that guy.
I saw a clip, or it might have just been a tweet where I think John Rice and Tua Tagovailoa should start a band. What do you think about that?
What would we call it? Call it Quarterback. It's like Nickelback, but better.
Oh, there we go. That's the tweet.
All right, nailed it. All right, so let's go over some basic stats for this game. Points scored per game, Ole Miss just slightly better than Mississippi State. 27-2 for the Rebels, 26.5 for Mississippi State. Points against, State's letting up 4 more on average, 31 to Ole Miss's 27. Ole Miss outgaining State by 50 yards on average, but allowing about 25 more yards per game. Pretty close.
Yeah, it's tight. Like, the numbers are tight. There's one thing in here specifically that really sticks out to me, and that's the fact that we're giving up more yards per game, but we're letting in less scoring. Our touchdowns or points against defense has been really good this year, and I'm not sure that State has the same level of firepower to really punch it into the end zone like LSU or Alabama or even Auburn, if you really want to count that game as,
that was a weird football game.
That was a weird football game.
Football game's a strong word. There was definitely a football involved. I did not
There was
enjoy
a
that.
ball involved.
Yeah, that game was something else. But, yeah, John Rice has been going off. He went off against LSU, 200 rushing yards, 4 tutties. He's going to do the same exact
he's
thing
got to.
against Mississippi State.
He's got to.
And-
if not more. Unless, Rich Rod is using these, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or however long, to drastically change something, John Rice has to be the main, the feature.
He's going to be. And
He's got
you know what? He almost forces himself to be. He gets option plays. A lot of the time, he is the best read. Whether or not he thinks he is, a lot of the times it's him. But he kind of forces himself into that role, and I think he's too dynamic of a player to not have the ball very often.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you 100%. Another big player to watch for me for Ole Miss has been Lakia Henry. When we lost Momo Sonogo, was that game 1 or 2 of the season?
Yeah, game 1.
Well, that was Memphis, yeah. I really was worried about how our defense would respond. They played great the rest of that game, but going into the rest of the tough schedule that we had, I wasn't sure. I was a little bit torn on it. I thought I really just wasn't sure. Lakia Henry has been awesome.
He's
really stepped up to the plate. He's got 80 total tackles on the season. That's just a huge number. That's incredible.
And Momo's going to be back next year, right?
He should be.
He should be. So with him and Lakia Henry at that linebacker spot.
Hey, if Mike stays, which it's looking like he is since Vandy doubled down on their head coach, Mike might be staying, and I think he'd be great for it.
That's something I'd love to see. I mean, and Matt Luke's locked down, so I think they've got an interest in keeping the coordinators he selected as first big real splash hires. But I'm excited at the potential of seeing those guys in the backfield together. I think that would do numbers for our run defense, which has been very good this year, even in the absence of Momo Sonogo. Probably player to watch for me, and you mentioned this is a problem. I tried to give the kid as much credit as I could. It was still early in the season. But Luke Logan, he's hit 57% of his attempts this year, and that's including a few weeks when we knew he was off, so we were going for it or punting it when if he had been a lock, we would have gone for those harder field goals. He's got the leg strength. He wouldn't have been recruited. He wouldn't be a kicker if he didn't, but his accuracy just hasn't been there.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any arguing there that he could or at least should have been better this season. And if not for the fact that this is college and we don't, teams don't keep more than one kicker in college, realistically.
No, they don't.
So I don't want to say we're stuck with it, but that performance to me, it just isn't. It's not good enough.
No,
it won't help us win games enough.
And we are getting Jack Tannehill out of Oxford High, who from what I know about Mississippi high school football, which ain't much, the kid's been pretty solid. I mean, it's the mayor's son. That's always cool. Nice, like Oxford Ole Miss connection that you love to see. But yeah, I would have really liked to see Luke Logan step up. I think those big games, chips may have fallen, or those close games rather, chips might have fallen a little bit differently. I'm not saying we lost game. He didn't miss any game-winning kicks. He didn't let something get blocked that would have sent it to overtime. But scoring points at any point in the game is going to affect the outcome. Maybe the other team plays a little more aggressively and turns it over. Stuff like that. I would have loved to see him pull through in more spots than he did this year. And I'm hoping he doesn't wind up being the difference for us.
That would be the worst. I mean, just for the guy's confidence and just his career in general, you don't want that to be the case because it's obvious he has the leg talent and he has the strength to get the ball through the uprights from just about anywhere on the field. He's just got to work on that accuracy, and I think his confidence was really shaken when Rich Rod and Matt Luke decided to try and take the ball away from his foot earlier in the season. And I really think that could be the difference maker in how he's been playing.
Yeah, and I can't blame him for it. I'd probably feel the exact same way. But hey, hopefully he has the chance to redeem himself, and he does. Just for the sake of my cardiologist, I'm hoping the game doesn't wind up being decided by a Luke Logan field goal.
Yeah,
but if
we'll
it
see.
does, I hope he knocks it through. And
I need a win.
well, man, that's a hot
Look.
take. I hope our field goal kicker makes a field goal. I really
It
thought
should
that was
be.
interesting when the thought developed in my head.
Look, I want to win. I just really want this because there's a slight chance, and we'll get onto this a little bit later, that we could go to a bowl game. But for right now, I think we just need to kind of focus on what other players are to watch for this game. And as much as I hate talking about Mississippi State and their players, we need to go through them a little bit. I think they're starting running back Kylan Hill. He's been great this year.
He
I
really
don't
has.
think that there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's got over 1,000 rushing yards, has 10 touchdowns on the season. He's not a huge guy by any means, but he's got that prototypical kind of, I don't want to say shorter, but stockier build out of running back. He's about 5'11". I think he's 230-ish, somewhere around there. So he has no problems either cutting to the outside and breaking it away or just going right up the gut and just bringing it to you.
Yeah, he can be John Rice or he can be Trent Richardson. If you need 1 yard on the ground, he'll get it for you. And for me, what Kylan Hill is, at least in my eyes, is he's kind of the last remnant of competitive Mississippi State offenses. One's under a good
Yeah.
Nick Fitzgerald, or before that, even for years, Dak Prescott. Not too far removed.
No,
Just
I mean, Kylan, he's a junior.
Tough, big running quarterbacks. Kylan Hill's been kind of the holdover from the last couple of years where State has been a pretty good team.
Yeah, with Dan, was that Dan Mullen?
Yeah, under Dan Mullen for the last few years.
Yeah.
And
R.I.P. Dan Mullen.
Kylan Hill to me is kind of the last holdover from, I don't want to say that era. It was only a couple of years, but heck, they were my undergraduate years, so
Yeah. Same
about
here.
as important as any other era to me, at least. But he's kind of the last remnant of that. He's a heck of a running back. I'm glad our run defense has been solid
good,
this
yeah.
season. I think we match up well against State. I think our chances of winning are higher than 35%. Am I saying it's a lock?
do I.
Absolutely not. But I think we match up well. This is a team that needs to get Kylan Hill moving, and if they can't, which I think we've got a good chance of stopping, they're going to really struggle to put up any points.
Now, I chose two other players. I chose three for each team for this. I chose Errol Thompson as the linebacker to look at just because he's been fantastic. He's got 72 total tackles, and he's
That's-
really good at stopping the run. I just want to throw a little bit of shade because I really could have chosen Leo Lewis for this. I just decided not to. Felt that was a little bit too petty.
It is, but welcome to the Egg Bowl rivalry. It's going to get petty, and people are going to get mad online.
But no, in all seriousness, Errol Thompson has been great for State.
72
all
tackles.
season.
That's a ton of tackles.
Yeah.
You know
And
how
I
many
mean,
tackles I have this year? None.
Well,
you know how
I
many
mean-
I could probably survive? Like 3
Maybe.
with pads.
That depends who it is.
Troy Polamalu.
Okay, then maybe.
If he looked at me too hard, I might die.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
being
at least,
said-
at least you didn't say Ed Reed.
I think it's E.D. Reed,
Oh.
boy. The best safety you ever seen, boy.
Then you
So-
would not be living more than one of those.
No. But Errol Thompson, really good linebacker. What worries me is a lot of linebackers, they like to crash inside, figure out where the running back or the quarterback's going. Is it A gap, B gap, C gap, provided they don't need to drop back into coverage. But this is a guy who isn't scared to get to the outside. He might start as a middle linebacker and then work his way outside. Maybe it's a long developing outside run or a pitch, some weird end around stuff we run with the 9 running backs we have on the field at all times. But he's good at getting to the outside. He's
Yeah.
tough to block. That's going to be a guy that really makes a difference for an Ole Miss ground game that all of a sudden is the center point of our offense.
And apart from those two, I picked out C.J. Morgan.
Back in the secondary,
Oh, yeah, they're starting safety, which I'm not sure how much work he'll actually be getting. He's got 59 total tackles on the season, and this is the main stat of his that I picked up that really kind of stood out to me. He has 8 pass breakups on the year. That's kind of ridiculous out of one guy. Like, you expect that out of maybe a whole defense from statistically, a pass breakup, which is kind of different than what you physically see as a pass breakup.
it's to me what's illuminating about that statistic is 8. Yeah, that sounds like a lot for an important statistic. Like you hear 8 sacks, yeah, that's a lot. Like that's great for any individual player. But when you look at 8 pass breakups on the year. That means your quarterbacks, opposing quarterbacks' completion percentages are a couple points lower because that player's on the field.
Yeah.
And that's completely ignoring when he's in coverage. Just from pass breakups, opposing quarterbacks are worse with him on the field. And it sounds oversimplified to say, but for John Rise, it's going to be tough to air the ball out on this guy's side of the field. Hopefully we can find some space opposite him.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's not... I don't think he's their strong safety, but I mean, with that amount of tackles, I wouldn't be surprised if he's also one of the players that they use in like a nickel or a dime set, where they're either in direct coverage or they step up.
Have they still been coming out in 3-4 this year?
I'm not sure which.
I know they were just because they had a wealth of linebackers last year.
I think they're doing something similar this year because I know that Errol Thompson's been has had a lot of tackles. Leo Lewis, he's also had a fair amount of tackles. And I'm not sure if they're just using C.J. Morgan in a more advanced role or if they're playing him as more of a strong safety, which is very possible.
And, we'll see what they come out. Of course, they're going to try some weird stuff against ACU, but that's a gear-up game. They don't care. They know they're going to win. In all likelihood, they're going to. Ole Miss, the Egg Bowl, that's a game that everybody in this state has circled on their schedule, unless you go to Southern Miss, in which case sometimes you still play state.
Or Delta.
Yeah. But at least for big schools, all right?
Yeah,
I'm talking about the main
go.
few. No disrespect to any of the other smaller schools in Mississippi. Shout out Rust College. But how do you see this game going?
So the thing is, even with all the numbers, even with the FPI, even with everything that we've got here in front of us, this is the Egg Bowl. Anything can happen. You really never know. And I mean, sure, the away teams won it every year that we've been in college. Starkville is just a really... as much as I don't like the town, I don't necessarily like the university, I don't like the stadium, it is a tough place to play just because of the fan base. The
fan base and the cowbells. They've got a special exemption from the SEC and the NCAA to be able to ring cowbells. That's loud. It's obnoxious, and I hate it a lot.
I've been to Starkville for an Egg Bowl. I've had to be. It's terrible. It is recommended to us to bring earplugs and good ones.
And that's coming from someone in a band.
Yeah, this is for the marching band. Our directors are telling us, bring earplugs. It gets bad, and it really does.
So look, it's a tough place to play, but everyone except the freshmen, of which we have plenty, have played at state before. Most of the players have.
Fair.
Or they've at least played them at home and gotten blown out. I think it's going to be a weird one. I think it's going to be a close one. Rivalry games are always an equalizer. You know the players, you know the tendencies, you know the coaches. What's the over? Do we know?
No, not yet, because ACU.
Okay, yeah, they don't even have one yet.
No over, no spread on it.
35-31 Ole Miss. That's my prediction.
I see Ole Miss taking this one, too. Just based on this run game that we've got, it's ridiculous. And I mean, I think I've got probably something similar. I think our defense steps up. I think it's probably 35-27 Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's going to be a weird one. Hopefully it's not raining. I heard it's supposed to rain.
I would not be surprised. But, hey, it was raining the last time we won. And when DK Metcalf did a fake pee in the end zone, that was great.
Oh, I talked to John Rice on Tuesday, and I said, hey, look, I want you to go into Starkville, and I don't want you to be disrespectful, but I want you to disrespect their fans just by getting into the end zone as much as you can. And he's like,
look, I'm not going to tell you what to do there, but just get there.
Yeah,
preferably with the football.
Yeah, and he was like, okay, I got you.
All right,
so pretty much.
You heard it here first, folks. George told our quarterback to score touchdowns, and he agreed to. You know what? That could be the difference maker for us.
Come on, boys.
But, yeah, it's going to be a weird one. I wouldn't be surprised to see it get a little bit scrappy, especially with both teams. When both teams are relatively equally matched, which I think this year has probably been the closest they've been in a few. When both teams are equally matched, things tend to get scrappy. Chippy is the better word.
Chippy.
So don't be surprised if you travel to the game. Don't be too surprised if you get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. I got one last year.
Did you?
Yeah, it was hysterical. They gave everybody one. They gave the whole student section one.
Oh, wow.
It was absolutely beautiful. It was poetic. I also have a technical foul from the Ole Miss Tennessee basketball game.
What'd you do?
I didn't do anything. People near me threw stuff.
Oh,
it was a
come
frustrating
on.
game. Hey,
Come
I got a
on.
free hat out of the deal.
Hey, that's not
that
bad.
being said, Egg Bowl is going to be a weird one, but a lot more college football in the next 2 weeks. Of course, Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving. Don't forget, 6 o'clock Central. I'll be watching at the Ole Miss bar in Midtown Manhattan. I'll be at the Overlook.
I will be at the game in uniform.
I'm not sure if I'm jealous yet. We'll see how the game goes.
Either way, I don't think you should be. Because
But-
we have to drive down to Starkville that morning.
Oh, you got to go to Starkville. Yeah, I forgot it's there.
Yeah, so if it was here, you should be jealous. If
If it was here, I wasn't going home for Thanksgiving.
there you go.
That being said, a lot more college football around the country today. Or not today, but tomorrow, this weekend. Ohio State's hosting Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State's a good team. They're ranked number
Penn
8 in the
State's
country. Ohio
they're
State's
solid.
an excellent team.
Yeah.
They're ranked number 2 in the country. Spread of 19.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, they're both really good teams, and I get it. It's in Columbus. But come on. I think that's a little bit much.
It's... Yeah.
Is it just me, or does 18.5 or 19, it depends where you get it, that seems like a lot to me.
It's a lot of points, especially for teams that play each other every single year. Things are always way too close than they have any right to be in games like this.
Yup.
But Ohio State has been nothing but dominant so far this year. They haven't had any immense challenges. This is going to be their toughest game, but they've shown no reason to doubt them yet. Penn State lost to a pretty good Minnesota team, but they've got a loss on their resume. Ohio State doesn't. None of them have been close.
No, they
I
really
get where the
haven't.
spread came from. It's a
Yeah.
big spread, especially for 2 top 10 teams, but I think Ohio State's distinguished themselves as in a not a tier of their own, but in a tier with only a couple other teams this year.
And keep in mind, Chase Young missed the last 2 games. He is in for the
Against
Penn
Penn
State game.
State.
Yeah, he's playing.
And that'll be a difference maker. Kid's projected to be the first non-quarterback drafted this coming spring.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he goes 1.
It's going to depend who gets the first pick. If it's somebody with a young quarterback, I mean, if it's Miami, they might pick up Chase Young.
Which,
If it's the Bengals,
don't get me started on either of those teams and their quarterback situations right now. It's ridiculous.
hey, I'm just excited the Jets get to play the Bengals in a couple weeks.
Yeah, let's stick on this game. There are a couple other things. This game could really have some huge consequences for the playoff race, especially if Penn State wins.
If Penn State wins, things start to get weird.
So,
Because then things start coming down to conference championship games,
yup.
and people start thinking about bowl tie-ins if they don't think they're going to make it to the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
But, all right, let's say Penn State wins. Let's say not convincingly, but they didn't just edge them out. They won.
Okay,
What's the playoff field start to look like for you?
so Penn State wins. Then it comes down to the Big Ten championship game. So if Penn State wins, they win the East if they beat Rutgers, which...
So they win the East.
Yeah. If Penn State wins, they win the East because they have the tiebreaker. Okay? If they win the East, and if they win the Big Ten, I think they're in.
I think they have to be.
They have to be.
But it's the fact that it's Ohio State, it's going to be the toughest game they play all season, unless they go to the playoff or national championship game. I think they've got to win out if they want to go.
Yeah.
But the fact that they get to play in the conference championship game and emerge one-loss Big Ten conference champion,
I think that's got to put them in. Even over a second-tier SEC team, whoever loses the SEC championship game, I mean, they've still got a chance, realistically.
yeah, everybody's still got a chance. It's going to come down. There's a couple, Big Ten and SEC both trying to get a couple teams in.
Mm-hmm.
SEC has, I think, more players in the race, well, at least ones with opportunities to make it. But Ohio
that
State,
being said,
the road's not over yet.
That being said, think about it like this. Also, if Penn State wins, that gives Ohio State 1 loss on their record. They play Michigan to end the season, and they wouldn't be playing in the Big Ten championship. So it's likely they would just end with 1 loss.
I think a one loss to a playoff team, big or non-Big Ten champion Ohio State might still be in.
I say that. I agree with you. And I say that only because look at who the 4 team is right now. It's Georgia. And from what it looks like right now, it looks like Georgia's going to win out. And they're going to have to play LSU, likely, because it looks like they're going to win out as well. they'd have to play LSU in the conference championship. And I don't think Georgia has the firepower
I don't think
to
so
beat
either.
LSU. Sure, LSU's defense isn't great. Fair enough. We all saw it. We all know. I don't think Georgia's offense. Sure, I love Swift. Fromm is
Pretty good.
He's pretty good. He's solid.
You know, he's won his division all 3 years he's been in college.
Exactly.
So credit where credit is due.
Exactly. But I don't think that's enough firepower to beat LSU.
No, it's taken a lot this year.
Yeah. So that would put them at 2 losses. So realistically, you would have LSU with none, Clemson with none, Penn State with 1, and Ohio State with 1.
Or Alabama with 1.
Or exactly. Or Alabama
That's-
with 1. But then again,
The fact that, you know what, if it comes down to that, that sounds fun, and I hope it does. If it comes down to that, the fact that it's going to really upset either Ohio State fans or Alabama fans, it's a win-win.
oh yeah. And well, the thing is,
But at what point do... I'm sorry, you want to finish your thought quick?
yeah. My only thing then is, this is where it starts to get a little hairy for the committee. Because which do you consider more? When a loss happens, or the quality of a loss? Because what do you think is a more quality loss? Losing to number 8 Penn State or to number 1 LSU?
And the thing is, these teams are going to go... The teams that go to the playoff are going to have a darn good chance of losing to LSU.
Yeah.
Even the ones that go. And at what point do you look at... All right, let's say Penn State wins. So we got LSU, 0-loss LSU, 0-loss Clemson, 1-loss Penn State Big Ten champ.
Yep.
Then you've got a 1-loss non-Big Ten champ Ohio State. You've got a 1-loss non-SEC champ Alabama with a better loss than Ohio State had.
Yep.
Oregon, still in the mix.
Ooh.
Does Oregon
Ooh.
have enough? Which of those 3 teams out of, let's
If they
say,
win the Pac-12.
Ohio State uses, let's assume Oregon wins out.
Okay. And they
through
win
the regular
and they
season.
win the Pac-12.
Yes, including that game. Which team's going to have the best resume? You could make a great argument for any of them.
Yeah, and especially because the one loss that's on Oregon's record is likely going to be 3rd place in the SEC West, Auburn.
And a good Auburn team.
And it's a solid Auburn team. And keep in mind,
And it was week 1.
it was week 1. The committee is so weird about where they place losses. So in this scenario, Georgia's gone. Georgia's out. They've got their 2nd loss and their 1st loss. They shouldn't be in the conversation now. They shouldn't be 4. Let me get that out of the way. They lost to South Carolina at home. They should not be in the race.
But look, Ole Miss has 11 games until the next game, so we're going to get into the theoreticals of it.
Besides the point. So, it's weird. It's going to get weird. In that case, I think you actually should put Oregon in, only because they've had to play that extra game against another really good Pac-12 team.
And you know what? It'll have been 13 weeks since they lost a game.
Exactly.
And Power 5 conference champ, yeah, it's the Pac-12. We joke about them cannibalizing themselves, but
That's what they do, because they're all solid. They're good teams.
But Oregon's escaped,
yeah.
and they've only got a couple of weeks left to, make the best case to be the number 4 team in the country.
And I think they do have the possibility to do it. Now, there's another weird underlying story with this Penn State game.
You talking about the Twitter thing?
Yeah, I think we do need to talk about that.
Yeah.
We didn't get to it before. So, Penn State's quarterback had to deactivate his Twitter and most of his other social media accounts after losing to Minnesota because Penn State fans started sending him death threats. I get it. We're college kids. Most fans are college kids. That's ridiculous. That's insane. If you legitimately take this that far to threaten someone's life, you have something wrong with you.
And what is going on with Penn State fans this year? Because, look, Penn State's been surrounded by controversy, but, even just this year, we've got that death threats to your starting quarterback. Even beyond that...
What was that alumni dude? Are you bringing that up?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that back.
on.
So, notable alumni donor, if you haven't heard about it, sent a letter... He didn't sign it, I don't believe.
He did.
Did he?
Yeah.
And they just... Oh, my
He
goodness.
signed it.
He put his name on it. So basically, a Penn State player with dreadlocks, he got a letter to his locker room or to his campus mailbox, something along those lines, from an alumni donor, a longtime Penn State fan, self-proclaimed, and said, like, I miss the old days of Penn State football. I think your appearance is unbefitting of a Penn State Nittany Lion. Obviously, the racial undertones on that can't be overstated. I think it's disgraceful. The alumni since apologized, but you can't.
That's
Look, don't tweet it.
disgusting
Don't tweet at
behavior.
Croots. Don't tell black student athletes on your team that their appearance is unbecoming of a Penn State Nittany Lion, and maybe don't threaten to kill your starting quarterback.
It's please don't that's just disgusting behavior on all accounts, really. No, I think we've harped on this game enough a little bit.
Yeah,
What do you
that's a
think
lot of
about
Big
this?
Ten action for a couple guys.
Yeah,
in
what do
North
you think
Mississippi.
for this game? Just a prediction. I think Ohio State's got to take this.
I think Ohio State's going to
I don't know if
win.
it's going to be that.
I think it'll be a better game than people think.
I think
both
it'll
teams
be-
have a lot on the line.
I think Penn State's going to cover at least.
Yeah. Well, this game's basically. Yeah, I think.
This game is essentially for the Big Ten.
Yeah, for
Or
all
at least the
practical
Big Ten
purposes.
East.
They're the two strongest teams in the Big Ten, and whoever wins is going to have one loss in the tiebreak.
Yup.
So, let's see what else we got going on. I think decent game. Texas plays number 14 ranked Baylor
In Waco.
In Waco, Baylor coming off their first loss of the year to Oklahoma, and Texas lost to the Iowa State Cyclones. Baylor's pissed.
No, they've got to be.
They're mad. They're
They've
out.
gotta be.
They're out. It's the Big 12. They had a
Livid.
loss.
They have to be livid right now.
In-state, home game, Baylor takes it.
It's 5.5, and Baylor's defense this year has been. They've been good.
They're allowing 350 yards, 20 points per game.
That's solid.
You can win an
So
awful lot of
good.
games in the Big 12
Yeah,
holding opponents to 350 and 20 points.
Baylor. I'm with Baylor. I like I said, I'm not an Ellinger guy. I think he's proven that to me a little bit more. I think Baylor's going to take this easy. And realistically, that's all I've got for college football. It's not a great week. I mean,
No, I mean, you've got...
Arkansas playing the night game at LSU.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. Looks like someone's having some pulled pork for dinner. What other games? Who's Alabama playing?
Nobody. Furman or somebody?
I
don't
couldn't
know.
even tell you.
So basically, all this weekend is... I mean, of course, it's kind of fun to have the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving. It gets weird and it gets logistically complicated when you want to visit family, but it is kind of fun to be the only game on that day, which we are. But this weekend in college football, you got a couple games that... You've got a bunch of conference games between teams that aren't in the conversation anymore, and then you've got a bunch of teams from the conferences that have 8 conference games like the SEC playing nobody to get geared up for their rivalry game.
Pretty
But
much.
you know what? Is it? I think LSU A&M, the last game of the season, that's going to be a night game as well.
I believe
at
so.
A&M, so LSU
That's
getting
in
a lot of
College
night
Station.
games. Is it in College Station? I could have sworn the 7 overtime game last year was in College Station.
Yeah, I think so. This one might be in Death Valley.
Yeah, so this one in the Death Valley, the real one in Baton Rouge, not the one in Clemson. I don't want to hear it.
Nope. Yeah, no. If you've been to Tiger Stadium at night, you will fully realize that is the real Death Valley.
Yeah.
It's
So-
not a joke.
Yeah, I think that's all I've got on college football for this week, but we got a little more college action going on.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about these. We've got a couple basketball things we need to talk about in the college ranks.
And Ole Miss still undefeated, beating the teams
yeah.
we need to be beating and beating them well. But first real litmus test of the season, this next week is going to be...
This is a lot for Ole Miss basketball.
It's going to be an awful lot. It's going to be a great litmus test. We'll be ranked if we perform well in the next 3 games,
have to be.
and we'll deserve to be. The next 3 games, by the way, traveling up to Memphis. I believe it's at FedEx Forum.
Yes, it's at the Forum.
That's exciting. So
Love the
playing
Forum.
Memphis, a good Memphis team, but a Memphis team missing James Wiseman. He dropped his appeal. He dropped his lawsuit. And NCAA gave him 12-game suspension and decided,
That's not enough.
Here's the
Let's
thing.
tack on to that.
The
Come on.
suspension is one thing, but decided that James Wiseman would need to find $11,500 and donate it to a charity of his choice, and then they'll reinstate him.
Here's the thing. Here's the whole thing with this that is so off the wall. It's mind-boggling, really. So, this is the NCAA, the corporation essentially that says, "Hey, you student athletes, you're not allowed to make money from your name and likeness." Okay? Hey there, James Wiseman. You were helped by a booster. We're going to suspend you for 12 games. And also, here's the thing. It's a fine. there's no way around that.
It's a fine. The NCAA just can't directly fine players because of an agreement.
Yeah, but how can you fine a player $12,000
George, you're in college.
when they can't make money?
You're in college, right, George?
Yes.
You have $12,000 lying around?
I sure don't.
Yeah, I'm in college
Hey,
too.
John, do you have $12,000 lying around
I
in your
don't.
back pocket?
I don't even have $12,000 equity in my car.
Thank you. And see, thing is, it's not like they can even work another job. This is their job, but they can't make money off of it.
Look, being a student's a full-time job. Being a student athlete is 2 full-time jobs.
And they can't make money from it.
So I don't know where they expect the kid to get $11,000 unless they know and are okay with him actually getting paid under the table. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know. Is a GoFundMe even an option? Or if
No.
if someone donated to the University of Memphis donated to his GoFundMe, they're a booster.
Yeah.
Then that's another violation.
There you go.
But
what is that? Another
it's a
12
weird-
games and another $12,000?
It's
Come
a
on.
weird situation. It's a weird punishment. I'm glad we don't need a face-off against him. But
Oh, he's great.
what a weird
He's
way
awesome,
for the
though.
NCAA to come down. That kid's going to be something special.
I mean, but also, how much of this comes back on Memphis, like the university? Because they handled this so poorly. They essentially said, we're going to stand by our coach and our player. The NCAA says, all right, then the whole university is going to get punished. Then they were just like, actually, you know what? Nah,
Come to think of it,
we'll step back on this one. It's essentially like, I don't even know what a good comparison for that is.
honestly, you just need to
Like
get...
squaring up with like the school bully, and then like right before you're getting punched in the mouth, saying, "Actually, no, I'm sorry." Like there's, it's so silly.
And
the whole situation is silly.
Mizzou's going to get the death penalty for that. There's no way around it.
You
Either
mean
them or
Memphis?
us. No, Mizzou.
Oh,
The NCAA just loves to hate Mizzou.
Oh yeah, I mean, well,
Them and us both.
whoa. We might have to get to that. We kind of did forget about that with talking about Ole Miss. But we can talk about it when we get to the last little bit of Ole Miss stuff we've got here. So
Yeah,
for
we'll
the
wrap that up
basketball-
later, but...
For
yeah.
basketball, what are the games we've got?
We've got-
Memphis the 23rd, just tomorrow.
And then coming up to New York, playing in the NIT tip-off. That's the NIT
That's
I'd rather
right.
us be in. But it's the 27th and the 29th, so that's next Wednesday, next Friday. Tips off at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, home of the Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn Nets.
We'll play Penn State,
Gross.
the other two teams in a tournament. It's just a 4-game tournament with a consolation game.
Yeah.
So the winner of Penn State Ole Miss will play Syracuse
of-
or Oklahoma State.
Yeah, based on the winner of that game.
And then championship game and consolation game are on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I will be in attendance for both Ole Miss games. I'm very
Nice.
excited. Tickets are $30. It's at the
At
Barclays Center.
Really?
$30, 200 level tickets.
Wow, that's really good.
I'm there.
You
I got-
can't even get Islanders
Dude,
tickets.
I
for
got
that
my
cheap.
boy
Come
there.
on.
It's gonna be a great time.
So the last thing we've got for some college talk is Ole Miss finally has their. Well, I say finally. Ole Miss has hired their no longer interim AD, athletic director, I should say. Keith Carter, who was the interim, he got the job. He got hired.
Former Ole Miss basketball All-American. Had the interim tag. I think I like the hire
So do I.
personally.
I'm about it.
But by the way, former Ole Miss basketball player. Does that signify the shift to us being a basketball school?
I would say yes, but our baseball team is also really good.
We're a women's rifle school, and I
Oh.
will not be convinced otherwise. No,
Come on.
They're a darn good
No,
team.
they're really good.
They
They're
beat
really
Army at rifle.
How? Is that legal?
I don't know. I think they got drafted for it. That being said, yeah. So Keith Carter named Ole Miss AD. The one thing I don't like about this hire is just the optics of it.
Yeah.
This is 3 hires
Yeah.
in a row where we went with kind of the interim guy, the guy already in the room after a quote national search. This hire I have no real problem with, but I just think it's a bad look for the university.
It is a bad look. But the thing is, it's not like compared to the other hires of like what you're mentioning, that the the chancellor and Matt Luke, that is right. Or those are the two.
Yeah, those are
Okay.
the 2 I was referring to.
Yeah, I think Keith Carter is likely the most qualified for this job. He's got experience. He served us well as interim. And as it's not a bad thing, but I know this is the whole joke about Matt Luke, yada yada yada. He does love the university, and there's no.
I have
I heard
much
you.
less of a problem with the athletic director loving the university.
Than
No,
our head coach.
I think it's much more important in his position, especially for a guy who a genuinely nationally recognized fundraiser.
Yeah,
And I think he got some fundraiser of the year award for large universities, which is excellent. That's big. He got giving up. Of course, having a better football program helped a great deal, but a couple years ago had us with the most donations we'd seen in years by tens of millions. So I like it. The guy loves Ole Miss. He's not allowed to use timeouts when we shouldn't be using timeouts, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm about it.
But on that note, just the final, I think, Ole Miss or college sports thing we've got for today is API. It's something you don't...
APR.
APR.
Yeah.
It's something you don't hear about very much unless you're 5-7 in late November, which we may
could be. We could be.
For the uninformed, APR is a measure of a school's academic success, and it effectively serves as a tiebreaker when there aren't enough 6-win teams, but there are plenty of 5-7 teams.
Yep.
So effectively what that means for Ole Miss is depending on the schools that wind up bowl eligible in a couple of weeks, provided Ole Miss wins the Egg Bowl, not a given, but a strong possibility.
In our eyes.
And and at the very least, a non-zero probability with ESPN having us at a 35% chance.
Yeah.
In theory, if Ole Miss is measured to have a higher academic success rate, then they would get in as a 5-7 team over other 5-7 teams. And the one reason George mentioned it when Mizzou came up, Mizzou's going to be bowl eligible based on wins. Mizzou is not bowl eligible this year.
They are not.
Much like we were the past couple of years, they can't go to a bowl game. It doesn't matter how many wins they get.
They are banned. What did they get banned for? It wasn't paying players, was it? It was a weird situation. Was it about academics, actually? Was it some academic?
I think it was closer to the UNC situation than the Ole Miss situation.
Yeah, the academic dishonesty kind of thing.
And UNC got no penalty, and Mizzou got Mizzou got a bowl ban.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're still working on it. They're still appealing it, so they might be bowl eligible, but at this point, it's highly
unlikely. So
yeah.
The one reason that's interesting is just as a fellow SEC member, there are conference tie-ins for bowl games. There are times when they say, hey, we'll take this number team in the conference to go to this bowl game. If that team's Mizzou and that team's ineligible, say the SEC is sending 2 teams to the playoff, and so those aren't going to bowls, everybody gets bumped up. Look, there's a very slim chance, but there is a chance, and that's what I'm going to hang on to for the rest of the season.
That's what we have to hang on to, really, and there is a possibility. There's a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance? Yes. Yes, I am.
So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with some NFL and NBA action right after this message. And welcome back to the Gene Finn Show on 92.1 Rebel Radio. We were about to get into some NFL, but some breaking news just a few minutes ago. Oklahoma State.
I noticed it a few minutes ago, but still.
Well, so for all practical purposes, it's a few minutes ago to us. If you're hearing it for the first time now, it's breaking to you. But Oklahoma State received a notice of allegations from the NCAA. That all stems from the FBI probe into bribery and fraud in college basketball. Per the official release, level 1 unethical conduct charge against former Oklahoma State associate head coach Lamont Evans for his role in the scandal.
Keep in mind that's for basketball, not football, which that is interesting, especially knowing that this basketball team is going to be playing in the NIT tip-off.
Yeah, we're going to be playing them within a week.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes and how that progresses. But for now, we're going to jump right into some NFL talk. I think we need to recap last night's game. Houston took the Thursday night football game 20-17 and grabbed hold of the AFC South. Deshaun Watson threw for 298, 2 touchdowns, 2 DeAndre Hopkins, and a pick. DeAndre Hopkins.
What a game for him.
DeAndre Hopkins. That's all I've got. That's really all I've got for Houston's side.
And a buddy of mine, we were watching a game last night at Buffalo Wild Wings. Not sponsored, just a fan. And one of my buddies said, just look, throw it up to Hopkins, let Hopkins do Hopkins things. That's exactly what he did last night. Both times,
it works.
I really love to see this. His mother actually went blind after an assault. But she was front row in one of the end zones. Both touchdowns he caught to that end zone and ran up and gave his mom the ball. Love to see it. So much fun to watch.
That's just such a great story. Well, I mean, it's such a great story that's just adjacent to sports and how it affects other people's lives other than the players and the fans. But I do have a couple questions about this game that I think I want to get your thoughts on. Is Jacoby Brissett holding back this Colts team? Now, I understand I'm not comparing him to Andrew Luck at all. They're completely different quarterbacks. But is he part of the problem, or what can their head coach Frank Reich do to help Brissett succeed? Because Brissett was good with the Patriots, and Frank Reich is a great coach.
Here's my thing. I'm a Jacoby Brissett fan. I think he's been playing well this season. I think he's been playing to one of the better levels you can expect out of a backup quarterback. My issue with Jacoby Brissett on holding, just the verbiage you use, holding back the Colts this year, is this year the Colts did, well, the past couple, they finally, I feel like, succeeded this year, right when Andrew Luck decided to retire. But they finally built an O-line. They built around their quarterback. They got weapons for their guy to throw to. I don't think there's a great excuse to not be succeeding as quarterback of the Colts right now. I'm a fan of Brissett. I'm high on him. But I think you've got the O-line you need, and you've got the weapons you need on offense. It's not like the defense isn't getting them right back on the field after 3 and out every time.
Yeah,
But
the defense is playing well.
the defense is playing well. They're giving their offense rest. I mean, I think they're in the market for a quarterback now.
I think they have to be.
I don't think there's anything Frank Reich can do to help Brissett succeed. I think he did that with the intention of helping Andrew Luck succeed, but it was too little, too late. You know, actually, I don't think it was too little. I think it was plenty. The work they did towards bolstering their offense, but it was too late for Luck. So I don't think there's anything he can do to help him succeed, except hope he can be an
Be a
excellent
better
backup or
quarterback,
be
yeah.
a better quarterback in a different system.
Now, yeah, just previewing for the rest of the weekend, it's not a great schedule. It's really not. Kansas City, Minnesota, Arizona, and the Carson Chargers all have a bye week. Yes, that's actually what I'm going to keep calling them now. Some games, Tampa plays Atlanta, Jacksonville plays Tennessee, the Jets play Oakland, and you said you're going to be there for that game?
I'll be at that game.
So the thing is, those are just kind of games, but there are only really 3 or 4 good games from this week that I pick out. I've got Seattle at Philadelphia at noon. That should be a good game.
Could be decent.
It could be decent. I mean, the only problem that I've got with this is that a ton of Carson Wentz's weapons are questionable for the game. Like Howard is
And the
questionable.
Seahawks are the
Aguilar.
better team coming in anyway.
Yes, but here's my question then for this game, because this is an important game for both teams. Seattle's been good, but are they true contenders? Their biggest win was by 17 over Arizona. That's not a huge win. That's not like a crazy win. Every other win they have was by a touchdown or less. And I get, you need those 1, 2 point, 3 point swing bounces.
Yeah, you always want the close ones to break your way. But
they're
is what you're
close
saying
ones.
just they're not blowing anybody out.
Exactly.
See, that's a little less concerning to me. Just I think that's part of Pete Carroll's coaching style, and I think that's part of just the ethos of Russell Wilson. That man has not played a blowout game in his life, it feels like. Russell Wilson will win games for you. He's that good of a quarterback.
Oh, he's fantastic.
He's
There's
an
no
excellent
doubt about
quarterback.
that.
I don't think he's played a single close game in his career that I can point to. Or, I'm sorry, a single blowout game in his career. They always come down to the wire with him.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right about that, but to me that is kind of a question mark for me. I don't know if it necessarily should be a question mark, but I mean, imagine this team has to go in and play a New England or a Green Bay or even a Baltimore, where those teams are ruthless. They don't stop, no matter what the score is.
But you know who I think is the same caliber team as those three? 49ers.
The Niners, and they took it to the Niners.
They took them to overtime. They did what they had to do, and they beat the 49ers. They've got the only win over the 49ers this year.
Yeah.
So I think, has Seattle proven that they'll blow the brakes off everybody? No, by no means. But they've proven that they can hang with one of the best teams in the league. We'll see how they match up with the AFC teams come playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt.
But for me, the thing with Seattle is they've proven they can beat just about anybody in the league, unless someone in the AFC, unless the Ravens or Patriots prove themselves to be significantly above the 49ers, or Green Bay. But
Green Bay has the possibility.
more opponents in common, at least in the NFC. I don't think Seattle will. They're not going to get blown out this year, and I think the fact that they have Russell Wilson, a good O-line, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Josh Gordon, they're never going to be out of the game. You might be up 2 touchdowns with 6 minutes to go. They are not out of that game. I'm high on Seattle this year, but also with Philly missing a lot of their explosiveness on offense, which they do have when they catch the ball, as rare as it may be. By the way, Michael Thomas with more receptions on the year than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Wow. I mean, okay, but keep in mind.
It's close.
No, but Michael Thomas is a reception machine.
Yeah, he's also good at football.
Whoa.
Listen.
Yeah.
Listen, I drafted Ertz and Aguilar, so I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Game I'm more excited for, the Sunday Night Football and then the Dallas-New England game. So Dallas travels to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Patrick giving up 10 points per game. That's insane.
That is ridiculous.
Dak Prescott
Wow.
this year trying to get paid, contract year for him. He's been putting up insane numbers. They were touted as having one of the best offenses in the league around week 4, 5, 6. They have since played better teams and lost to the Jets. I think the Patriots are going to take this one.
Oh, no doubt.
If both teams could lose, I would be happy with it. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, one of them is going to.
One has to win, one has to lose. My thing is, like you just said, I doubt Dak Prescott and company can really break down that Pats defense. That's just what it is for me. And you mentioned Sunday Night Football. That's going to be Green Bay at San Francisco. And this is a huge game for both of these teams. Green Bay currently controls the North by 1 game. Minnesota is 8-2.
Quietly 8-2.
Excuse me. Minnesota is 8-3.
Okay.
Green Bay is 8-2. Which again, that's a quiet 8-2. And the Niners are ahead of Seattle by just 1 game. And right now, Seattle has the tiebreaker. So if Seattle wins that game in Philadelphia, which we expect, and Green Bay takes that game in San Fran, Seattle controls the West. So now this game is going to come down to the Green Bay offense and the Niners defense. The Niners defense has been prone to not give up many points, whereas Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, who is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think that's the matchup, that Green Bay offense, which I feel like we haven't talked about Green Bay a lot. And I don't mean us on this show, I mean
In general.
The NFL media, they're very quietly an excellent team, and probably
top
the
to
second.
bottom.
And it looks like they're the second best team in the NFC right now.
I think so. I would agree with that, yeah.
This game might prove they're the first, or it might prove that they really
They
weren't
really are
the
the
second
second.
overall. And then Monday Night Football could be decent. It's Baltimore traveling to L.A. to play the Rams. Rams have not been good lately. The Ravens
No.
are...
The Ravens are killing everyone
They're
in
not.
their path.
The Ravens started off 2-2. Their record now, I don't know it, but it's good. It's very, very good. And
I don't think they've lost since.
Oh my! I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they have.
I don't think they've lost since.
But-
they're incredible.
They're winning enough games that Lamar Jackson catapulted themselves into the MVP race as front runner in just a couple short weeks of playing excellent quality football, and they beat the Pats.
And
They can
the
beat
Pats.
anybody in football this year. Let's see if they can take down the LA Rams. I know
I
I'll be
think they
sitting.
can.
I've had the Rams defense all year. It's been all right. I am
But
picking somebody else up.
Yeah, you got to pick you got to go to waiver wire for that.
Yeah,
one.
I'm gonna take a flyer on somebody.
Yeah. Did you get it? Well, never mind. I think we just have a little bit more time just to go over some quick things from NBA. Golden State is actually now currently the worst team in all of basketball. They are 3-13. Yes, I am using this platform to just talk about how much I do not like the Golden State Warriors, but that's okay for me. Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic. The other night, he is the youngest player to average a triple-double over a 10-game span. In the first quarter of that game, he had more points, more rebounds, and more assists than the entire Golden State Warriors team. Is Luka Doncic the best player to ever play basketball?
He's not
I'm
even
just kidding.
Him
But
alone's
still.
not the worst team in the league.
He's not. Him alone could beat the Golden State Warriors right now.
I'd pay money to watch that contest.
I would love to see that. But that's really all I've got for NBA. There's not a whole lot really going on. It's very early in the season. A lot of the storylines just haven't developed. College basketball is certainly more interesting.
And
to
it's
be
about to
watching
start
right
ramping
now.
up.
There we go. I think that's all we've got today. Anything else from you, John?
I think that's going to be it for me. So we'll be back. We will not have a show next
Monday
week
or Friday.
but we will be back for Dead Week, the week after Thanksgiving. So until that coming, for another
until that
couple
Monday,
weeks.
yeah.
Until then, I've been John Finnegan.
And I'm in George Giro. Before we head out, I would just like to thank everybody for listening and have a great holiday season.
Travel safe. Watch the Egg Bowl.
Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.
And we'll see you next week.